Hello, I'm here with Richard Harbridge. Welcome to the show. Can you introduce yourself shortly?
Sure, I'm a Microsoft MVP, and I talk about Microsoft Viva, Microsoft 365 intranets, and Power Platform quite a bit. And now, I guess, Copilot. Everyone talks about Copilot
Everybody
now.
talks about Copilot.
That's right.
But we're not going to talk Copilot in this session, actually. You did a session this week
Yes.
about Microsoft Viva. Could you share with us, like what would be an important tidbit that you would like to share with us? What was one of your core key takeaways, basically?
You know, the session was on piloting Viva, and you know, some of the best parts of like an event like this is when you have discussions outside of the session. So I was having a discussion with someone afterwards, and we were talking about, you know, one of the frames of reference I was making is when you pilot Viva Learning, it's really important to focus on how it connects people to learning, right? So, you know, non-manager, non-IT people can share learning. People don't leave an organization and go, oh, I wish I could get better compliance training. Oh, I'm going to go join that business, right? They do it because they're learning from peers and things like that. So what's interesting is when we started to talk about it, we were both recognizing how important connectivity is to Viva. Mm-hmm. Every Viva workload, whether it's Viva Connections literally, or Viva Engage or Insights, what it's doing is it's connecting employees to something that they didn't have before. So in the learning scenario, it's connecting employees to opportunities for learning from peers and with others, connecting them to learning and helping them discover learning. If it's goals, it's connecting them, you know, from an alignment perspective, it's connecting them to like the mission and the purpose and objectives and key results that we're doing. And yeah, there's prioritization and there's lots of like other things we do, but it's that connectivity. And I think like a bit of a technical term is the word integration, right? With goals, we can integrate it so that the data comes from here, or with connections, it's integrated with teams. And I think integration is a very, it's not a full representation. It's necessary, but it's not a sufficient representation of what, you know, employee experiences with Viva bring. And so I just loved, as we talked more and more about it, I think from now on, when I talk about Viva, I'm going to talk about how it connects people, and then each workload, how it connects you to different experiences, scenarios, opportunities. So yeah. Great example of a change that I learned at the conference, basically.
Yeah. So and it's bridging a gap, right? So it connecting people, connecting you to data.
Yep.
Basically, the fact that it is within your Microsoft Teams client already makes it like very approachable to get there. It's like a there's not so much of a barrier to get to that data, to do the connections. That's great. I like that insight.
Yeah.
So. I would say that the employee experience movement, I think that's been going on for about 7 years now, with the early startups in 2015, and now it's now really getting much bigger. What would you say that organizations, what are the biggest benefits that organizations would take out of really using those Viva premium components of the platform?
Yeah, I think a lot of organizations are working on, you know, how to be more competitive, more productive. And a lot of times we think of the employee experience as, well, that's important to like retain employees, right? Just to keep people from leaving, or, you know, bring in people and make them feel more connected, you know, again, to the organization. But I think there's a lot of productivity benefits that are directly addressable in the Viva portfolio. So, you know, if you try and work without, say, Viva goals, you don't have a framework, you don't have a technology, a way to communicate and coordinate around priorities. Not really at that kind of a scale. And similarly, if you take something like, let's do Viva Topics, right? You know, if you don't have Viva Topics, the way you're working is without really AI, because you're creating curated content, you're managing that in traditional SharePoint environments. Mm-hmm. But when you use something like Viva Topics, whether you're using it to inform that traditional content, you know, as almost like a content analytics engine, or whether we're using it to improve how we work, it provides a richer, you know, more always up-to-date way of finding information, experts, things like that. And you know, I think a lot of times where people start in their journey is, let's enrich an existing pattern with Viva. Let's enrich our intranet with Viva Connections. Let's, you know, enrich our communication strategy with Amplify and Engage, right, with storylines and Ask Me Anything events and things like that. But where I think Viva really delivers its real value is after you get through that enrichment phase, it's what's new, like a new opportunity that Viva provides that you just couldn't do before. You couldn't action, there was no pathway forward. And I think, you know, there's a lot of these circumstances where, you know, we always want to do more as organizations. And I think once you've established Viva, these workloads, now you can actually start to enact some of those things, especially with the way they're updated. And there's always like a new Viva experience, or there's a new, way of making it more accessible with Copilot. Or I know we're not supposed to talk about Copilot, but like,
Okay.
it makes it a lot better. So I think, use it as a starting point in enrichment, but once you've got that enrichment, don't stop there, because I think a lot of organizations, that's the project's complete, move on. Employee experience is a service, right? It's an optimization, ongoing thing versus like a one and done.
It's a continuous effort in driving employee happiness and productivity.
Yeah.
But actually, it's a hard thing to measure, actually. So the amount of success. So I'm keen to understand. Have you figured like what would be good ways to actually put a number on the success or the benefits of an organization for using this technology?
Yeah, I think this is where I do think there is value in thinking of each workload a little bit, because you measure workloads differently, right? When we think of some literally have it built in. So we use this term direct signals and indirect signals. So a direct signal would be Viva Glint or Viva Pulse. You're getting survey forms, you're getting people giving you feedback, and then you're using that feedback to make decisions as an organization, right? Like, should we nudge behaviors for managers or groups? Should we change how we work? And then we have indirect signals, which is really well represented by Viva Insights today, where the indirect signals are things like, digital behaviors, how effectively, do people at a larger scale perspective connect with one another? So networking statistics, for new employees, how long does that take? Management, how much time do people have with managers? There's a lot of really interesting indirect signals. And while those are the obvious ones, that actually is true across all of the Viva products. So if you look at something like Viva Engage, there are a lot of indirect signals, employee engagement, like how active is this community? Those are indirect signals. They're not telling you this is immediately, like this is how you should action the data. It's giving you insights that help you inform how you improve, right? Data over dogma. And when we go back to like success metrics, so that's an important one, because a lot of times people come in and they say, this is what we're going to measure. But then once you start to see the indirect data in these experiences, you start to take a step back and go, well, that is something we could do, but this is a better strategy, right? Insights is a great example where people come in and they have these pre-assumptions around how they're going to use it to improve the organization. But what you really should be doing is distributing Viva Insights so that every team leader can use that data to make their own decisions, and they're going to have context you don't have, and they'll come up with ideas you wouldn't come up with at a central perspective. So, part of the success criteria, most people figure out the right ones, like, okay, we need, if we use Viva Connections, we should see greater usage data. If we connect with dashboard cards in Viva Connections, we should see that streamlining effort takes less time. How often are those cards used? These are all analytics you can look at. But when you start to combine it with this second layer where you're saying, well, because we've enabled, so much of Viva is about enabling, storylines, Ask Me Anything events. It's enabling people to do something themselves. The qualitative data is really important, because then that tells you what next to measure. So if lots of people are saying, we rolled out Viva Engage because we wanted to capture more questions and answers, right? Has a high business value in the organization. And when you have questions and answers, topics, which is answers in Viva, that licensing footprint, you might really get a lot of benefit there. So the qualitative feedback you might get is, we find now that we've been doing this for a while with Ask Me Anything events, and we've seeded a bunch of question and answers, we're able to find answers to questions we couldn't before. And this is a thing users are looking at regularly. If you achieve that, that's worthy of note, and may not have been a metric you were aiming for, but it might literally be the thing that drives the next layer of that strategy.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that these are great examples. You can't underestimate the power of having that kind of knowledge, these frequently asked questions on every business domain within your organization, to actually have that information at your fingertips.
Yes.
That's of extreme value. And I think in like employee surveys, you should put it out there, like, is this helping you? To what extent do you feel like you find what you need to find your answers? And that would be a very great key metric to measure the success of the Viva platform.
Yeah, qualitative and quantitative, right? Yeah.
Connecting and knowledge. Well, with these great insights, I would like to wrap up this interview. Great to have you here.
It's been wonderful. It's really neat. Like, you know, anytime you go to an event, you get different perspectives. And one of the things I always like in this is you get, you know, so many countries are represented in ESPC. So it's been really neat to see, you know, what is this region like experiencing, and the privacy discussions or the compliance or security discussions are so different from like where I live and work in North America.
Yeah.
So it's been an amazing event.
Having those discussions on the floor is just absolutely so important for understanding your perspectives on how what we do as work and in organizations, and driving those conversations within our own organizations, basically, and
Absolutely.
our customers.
Yeah.
So thanks again. Have a good day and see you in the next video.